Now, a story about one man and his dog. It's a mystery story that ends up with both man and dog being attacked and stabbed to death in a wood in Sussex. As the story unfolds, you may feel that you have rather little sympathy for the man. He was a drugs dealer, and one that cheated his customers at that. But the police are particularly anxious to catch the killer. It looks like what's at stake here may be a drugs ring whose members are prepared to kill to get their way. The trail starts at a seaside town. Hastings is a quiet south coast resort with pleasure craft and fishing boats and a tradition of smuggling that goes back generations. The modern contraband is drugs, and for those that want it, there's anonymity in a town that's used to having visitors, and there are good connections to London and beyond. 5 months ago, these men discovered how deadly some of those connections are. Near Brightling, 12 miles from Hastings, there's an aerial ropeway that links a gypsum mine and its processing works. For 3 months, there'd been something lying, decomposing and undetected in the undergrowth.
What you got there? What you found? Leave. Get away. Hey! Easy.
Gary Collins was barely recognisable. He'd been 25, tall, with dark curly hair. He and the dog had been beaten and stabbed repeatedly. Gary had always lived in Hastings, a fit young man, a sportsman. He'd been living with his girlfriend, and the two of them had been saving up to buy a house. Gary and his Alsatian collie Trudy had gone missing 2 weeks before Christmas. The last time they were seen alive was when they left their rented flat in St Thomas's Road in Hastings. It's 10 o'clock on the morning of the 12th of December last year. A neighbour saw him leave. Gary Collins should have gone to work that day, but didn't. He had a part-time job packing eggs, but police now know Gary had been running a little business of his own. He started by selling small amounts of cannabis to friends, but then to an ever-growing market. He was known to customers and dealers as the man with the dog. The two of them had been frequent visitors to London in the year before they died. Several of Gary's associates have helped police to build up a picture of his growing trade in drugs. So far, Gary's movements have been traced to North and West London in particular. He's known to have met contacts in Camden, Islington and Kensington. And it's clear his drugs dealing involved double dealing too. Two people, a former partner in crime of his and one of Gary's former cannabis suppliers, have given matching descriptions of an incident that shows the dangerous and devious game Gary was involved in. The drug supplier was to meet them at Victoria.
Get it all?
Yeah, fine.
I'll put this in the boot. Yeah.
You got a fag?
You have one of his, you want one?
Where's he gone?
So I made a phone call, eh?
Have you got the money, then?
Well, he'd give it to you to snout, didn't he?
You bastards.
By then, it was too late. Gary's accomplice vanished with the drugs, and Gary just drove off. Gary's deals were also growing more ambitious. Through Interpol, police have traced a grand scheme for smuggling cocaine through Brussels and Amsterdam, financed by exporting illegal amphetamines to Stockholm. Shocked by Gary's murder, another dealer at the time explains how Gary was now playing in a bigger league.
He was known as the dealer, the man with the BMW and the dog. He would have been an easy target to any of the other type of gangsters that are just looking plainly to rip people off. You know, I mean, they'll sort of promise the earth, and all they want is to rip off everything. They'll even come up with the hash, and you'll come up with the money, and they'll take both.
What happened in the last few hours of Gary's life is still not known. Remember, it's Monday morning, 2 weeks before Christmas. Someone drove his grey BMW to Battle railway station. The station staff saw it there at noon. The rest is speculation. Except for one thing. Whoever took the car there took the trouble to turn it round in the narrow car park to face the exit. Perhaps Gary drove it there himself. Maybe he'd arranged to meet a contact there. Curiously, though Gary was meticulous about his BMW, the car was left unlocked. Maybe there was an unexpected change of plan. Or maybe Gary met someone at Battle Station from a London or Hastings train, and perhaps they drove off together, and the car was later taken back there after Gary's death. Or maybe Gary never went to Battle Station. The car was simply dumped there after he was killed. Whatever happened at the station, somehow, presumably with someone, Gary went to the secluded woods by the gypsum mine near Breitling. With him, as almost always, was his dog. Somewhere he changed into Wellingtons from the light brown moccasins he'd been wearing when he'd left the flat. The moccasins are an important clue. They haven't yet been found. It's fairly certain from forensic evidence that Gary was alive when he arrived at the woods near Breitling. Maybe he was forced there. Maybe he was going to retrieve some hidden drugs or money. On Monday, December the 12th last year, Gary Collins and Trudy went on their last walk together. Well, you might see something about the death of Gary Collins in the papers tomorrow, because today an inquest at Hastings into his death recorded a verdict of unlawful killing. Superintendent Clements, it's obviously a very difficult case for you, because people who've been dealing in drugs, people who've been buying cannabis, are most unlikely to come forward as witnesses.
That's true. We've considered the matter so serious that we've granted an amnesty against anybody that has had any drug dealings with Gary Collins, in the hope that they'll come forward and give us information or evidence that may help us trace the person responsible for Gary's death.
To be candid, even though you say you've got an amnesty, I can imagine people watching who may have known Gary, may have, say, bought cannabis from him, don't think they can solve the murder and will be very reluctant, particularly if they don't have a record, to get on police files.
Well, I can quite definitely say that anyone that comes forward and gives details about dealings they've had with Gary can feel absolutely certain nothing will happen. We have plenty of statements from people who've had dealings with Gary, that statements which could have landed them into very serious trouble, but we've taken no notice of this because we're after a particularly vicious criminal who's killed this man in a most savage manner.
The man in the silhouette?
That's right.
Who helped us, what's happened to him? Have you taken action against him?
No, not at all.
And if people want to ring anonymously, will you listen to their information?
Absolutely. Obviously, the best information is from persons who give their name and address, but anyone who wants to ring anonymously, we should be more than pleased to hear what they've got to say, Mr. Watson.
Now, if people do ring in, What is it that you want to know? What sort of people do you want to reach?
We want to hear from people that have known Gary, especially in drug stealing, anybody that might have seen him when he arrived at Battle Railway Station on the 12th of December, or perhaps even out at Brightling Wood. People that might have been on holiday that just happened to be passing and didn't even know that a murder had been committed.
The date, of course, 2 weeks before Christmas, what, the 12th of December,
That's
wasn't
right.
it? So you really want anybody who knew Gary, did drug dealing, but knew him at any stage and may know nothing about the murder?
Well, if they think they can help us at all, we would be more than pleased to hear from them.
Have you got hold of everyone you want in particular? Are there any people you know of out there that haven't yet come forward?
There is a lady, a blonde woman, in a brown coat that has been seen by a green Toledo that has been seen with Gary on the A21, which is the battle to the main London road, on at least 2 occasions, and on one occasion which she was with 2 men who carried grey disposable bags. And I would like to say, Mr. Ross, that there is also, of course, a reward of £5,000 offered by Mr. Collins Sr., Gary's father, for any information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the persons responsible for Gary's death.
Bill Clements, thank you very much indeed. Right, again, the numbers, remember there's an amnesty, remember whatever you think about cannabis or other drugs, we're looking for a murderer and a man who could strike again. Call us here please, 01 811 8055. You can talk to civilians if you prefer, or you can call Sussex Police directly. Their number Hastings 444 212. That's 0424 444 212. Now for this month's reconstructions. We start with a crime that made the headlines a year ago, but which is still unsolved. It's the murder of a wealthy London solicitor, Janice Weston. There appears to be no motive for the killing. She had no known enemies, there were no sexual assault, no robbery. She was battered to death in a lay-by on the A1 last September. The case is baffling, but there's a wealth of clues to follow up, and detectives here tonight are convinced that if you watch this reconstruction carefully, someone will be able to provide them with at least one of the missing links.
Our reconstruction begins at 11:20 a.m. on the 10th of September last year at Kensington Tyre Motors in West London. That Saturday, Janice Weston set out to collect the spare wheel of her Alfa Romeo Alfetta car. This wheel was to become the vital missing link in the search for her murderer. Janice was seen shopping near her home at Holland Park at around midday. She was a solicitor and had told friends she'd be completing work for a client and staying in London over the weekend. Janice had been married for just 15 months to property developer Tony Weston. Together, they'd bought this country house in Clopton near Northampton, which they were converting into luxury apartments. This particular weekend, with her husband away in France on business, Janice called into her office at Lincoln's Inn. The exact time isn't known, but it was sometime on Saturday afternoon. Janice was a partner in the firm Charles Russell & Company, and at 36 was at the peak of her professional career. She was successful, popular, and led a busy social life. She'd gained a reputation as an international expert on company law, and was also completing a book on a specialist interest of hers, computer data protection. On that Saturday afternoon, an eyewitness reports seeing Janice frequently looking out of the office window, as if she were expecting someone.
Hello, Charles Russell. I'm afraid he's not. Can I help you?
Police know that she was still in the office at 4:45 p.m. because she took a phone call for a colleague. Piecing together the evidence, police believe that later that afternoon, Janice returned to her basement flat in Addison Avenue, West London, and made herself a meal. But then, contrary to what she'd said to friends about staying in London that weekend, she evidently decided to leave. She gathered together the remnants of her meal, which included a partly drunk bottle of wine and a half-eaten loaf of bread, and with an overnight bag and a purse containing £37, she set off. Yet strangely, she left behind her handbag. It contained her chequebook and all her credit cards, but she did take with her the keys to the country house in Clopton. It was unusual for her to set off for the manor house alone, if indeed she did set off alone, and it would have been very uncomfortable there with the renovations in progress. Driving north up the A1 towards Northampton on Saturday night, the traffic was heavy. Police believe it must have been 9 p.m. or later by the time she reached the Huntingdon stretch of the A1. Just north of Huntingdon, only 16 miles from her country home, she pulled into a lay-by. Later, forensic evidence found traces of grease on her fingernails, which suggests that the reason she pulled in here was to change the wheel of her car. But Janice Weston wasn't alone. Police still don't know whether her killer followed her into that lay-by or had been in the car with her. Janice Weston was killed by a series of blows to the head, so ferocious that it took police 3 days to identify her. The next day, Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, David Hurst is cycling along the A1 on a 12-hour time trial for the Luton Wheelers Cycling Club. As usual, he'd arranged with his wife to give him refreshment along the route. It so happened she chose to wait for him in that same lay-by where Janice Weston's car had been that previous night.
Yeah, fine. Cold.
Why don't you pass?
No,
Terrible.
no, I should be all right. Be all right. I'm just going to go here.
At almost the same time, just 23 miles away at Royston, a man called into CB Car's garage with an apparently straightforward request.
You make number, please.
No, I'm sorry, we don't, but they do in the store next door.
He made his way to Auto Spares, where his purchase was to become one of the most mysterious aspects of the whole case.
Do you do number, please?
Yes.
Hello.
A few minutes, so in between customers.
Good.
Okay. A pen
Yeah.
and number.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, I'll give 2 minutes.
Okay.
He didn't state what number he wanted, but handed over a scrap of paper. That number was already on police files. It was Janice Weston's number. Redhill Street in Camden, northwest London. 4 days after Janice Weston's death, her Alfa Romeo Alfetta car was found abandoned on a parking meter. Inside, police found the keys to her London flat and to the country home. They also found her purse, Nothing had been stolen. But when they opened the boot of the car, the spare wheel was missing. The tyre that she'd collected that Saturday morning had now been put on the rear near side of the car. But the other wheel was gone and has never been traced. Well, heading the investigation is Detective Chief Superintendent Len Bradley of Cambridgeshire Police. There are many, many strange aspects about this case. Have you any idea what the motive might have been for the murder?
Well, certainly I think I can rule out robbery and sexual attack. The other theory, one theory we have possibly, is Janice was accompanied along that road. They stopped to change a wheel and there was a disagreement, and then Janice was battered to death in that lay-by.
So you think she may have known her killer?
Most certainly, yes.
Who was that man at Royston asking about those number plates?
Well, this could, again, be an incredible coincidence. The man could have purchased those number plates for a stolen vehicle. And if that is the case, I hope he will come forward, because I'm not really interested in prosecuting him for or being connected with theft of vehicles. But, of course, if he is connected with the murder, then I want to know from any person in Royston who was about on that Sunday morning, which was quite a quiet Sunday, and any information will be gladly received in respect of that man.
What clues do you have about what happened to Janice's car after the murder?
Well, almost certainly the car was facing in a northerly direction, and it would either need to cross the carriageway or go further up towards the Brampton Hotel, and then it traversed the road backwards towards in a sort of different direction completely towards London, and was found, as you've said, in Redhill Street, Camden Town area, and almost certainly abandoned before lunchtime on Sunday the following day.
And what about the mystery of that missing wheel? Why do you think it is missing, and where do you think it might be?
Well, it could have been discarded in a hurry and left on the lay-by, and it could have been picked up during the night before the police were called to the murder scene, in which case I hope even that person might come forward to be eliminated from this murder inquiry.
What is distinctive about the wheel?
It's distinctive in as much as it's an Alfa Romeo wheel. It has 20 air vent holes round the wheel, and it also has the centre boss, which has the Alfa Romeo motive thereon.
So we hope somebody might have found one like it somewhere along that route.
Yes, somewhere along the route on the A1 on that weekend, the 10th of September 1983, with a Michelin tyre on.
Can you briefly sum up then what you're hoping people tonight might be able to help you with?
Well, I'm interested in tracing the man who purchased the number plates. I want to hear from anybody who saw Janice after 4:45 p.m. on the Saturday, either driving her car or in the lay-by at Huntingdon. And I also want to hear from anybody who has seen anybody acting suspiciously in the lay-by, or who may have bloodstained clothing or returned home that weekend bloodstained, or any person who might have seen any discarded bloodstained clothing.
Mr. Bradley, thank you very much. And if you think you can help, do please ring us. You can talk to the detectives here, or if you prefer, you can talk to a BBC researcher in absolute confidence. The number is 01811 8055. The lines are open now, but if you can't get through, please keep trying. Or you can call Cambridgeshire Police direct at Peterborough 63232. That's 0733 for Peterborough 63232. Well, now to a murder case that seems to show a sort of random violence that may well be unleashed again unless the man responsible is caught. In March this year, a minicab driver was ferociously stabbed to death. His body was found in the back of his own car near Heathrow Airport. Now, that was the second time a cab driver had been found dead in the same area and in similar circumstances.
Heathrow is on the western tip of London, a city in its own right, alive 24 hours a day with travellers and airport workers. In recent months, in or near it, 2 men have died in separate and frenzied knife attacks. Stephen Sylvester was 39. He worked as a driver for Skyway's minicabs at Kingsley Road near Hounslow East Tube Station, some 4 miles from the airport. It's a Wednesday night last November. Stephen usually worked overnight, and in the early hours of Thursday, the date November the 17th, he drove back to the office after taking a fare to nearby Feltham.
Stephen. Hi. Well, things are very quiet now. You better take over. I'll see you in the morning.
Oh, cool.
All right.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
It's 2:30 in the morning. Now the controller and the other driver have gone home to sleep. Stephen's on his own. At some point between 2:30 and 3:30, Stephen must have left the office, presumably with another fare. Whether he responded to a phone call or someone visited the office is still unknown. What is known is that this was the last trip Stephen ever took alive.
Where to now, Gov?
Yeah, left to the next one.
Hey?
Turn left.
At some point, Stephen got into the back seat, or was forced there, and in a frantic and bloody attack was knifed to death. With Stephen's body in the boot, the killer then took the wheel and drove the car towards the airport. Maybe he worked there. Maybe he was flying off somewhere. Why did he head towards the short-term car park at Terminal 3? Perhaps he hoped that in a crowded car park, the vehicle would not be found. The police know that he got here at 4:05 a.m. He dropped the entrance ticket on the floor of the car. At this time of night, the upper floors are blocked off and only the ground floor is used for parking, mainly by night shift workers at the airport. Whoever killed Stephen would have been heavily bloodstained. Someone must have seen him. Did he go to one of the toilets to wash off the blood? Did he catch a plane or hitch a lift back to London or elsewhere? 4 days later, on Monday, November the 21st, police who'd been looking for Stephen found his blood-stained car abandoned in the car park and discovered the awful truth.
Hunter Delta from 572, active message over.
It seemed like a crazy but an isolated crime. Then 6 months after the Heathrow murder, there was another killing in the same area. And it was like the first. The victim was a driver with Blue Star minicabs of Martindale Road near Hounslow West. Hardeep Sangha helped out his father-in-law, driving part-time on weekday evenings. The cars there weren't equipped with radios, so after each fare the driver had to return to base. It was Friday evening, the 30th of March this year, the day before the Grand National. Hardeep had already made about a dozen journeys that night and returned to the office to wait for further calls. At about midnight, a man rang from a call box not far away.
Hello, yeah. I want a cab to go to Felton. Yeah, at a phone box near some traffic lights on the Great West Road. No, the next traffic lights.
At about the same time, a tall soldier and 2 young girls called at the Blue Star office. They too were asking to be taken to Feltham. Because of inconsistencies in the minicab log sheets, the police don't know which call Hardeep responded to first, the soldier and 2 girls who wanted to go to Feltham, or the still untraced caller from the phone box at the Lambton Road junction. Near the phone box is the Boom Boom Wine Bar and the Heathrow Tandoori Curry House. It may be that someone who'd been eating or drinking in the area noticed the man waiting for a cab. They may even remember if Hardeep did pick him up. It's only 4 miles from Hounslow to Feltham, and at around midnight the trip wouldn't have taken long. So Hardeep could have done both trips, or even picked up someone else in the Feltham area. The next thing that's known for certain took place on a slip road off the A30, close to the airport's southern perimeter fence. The car had run out of petrol. The killer tried to open the boot, but couldn't. He was unable to take the keys out of the ignition. He must have walked away. Perhaps he hitchhiked. The time between 12:30 and 2 in the morning of Saturday the 31st of March. Even at that time of night, the Great Southwest Road is busy, especially with lorries. Someone must have noticed the car stranded there. At 2 a.m, Hardeep was found slumped behind the passenger seat. He'd been frenziedly stabbed to death. Some credit cards were missing, along with a small amount of money. So the killer is possibly a racist, possibly a robber, apparently a psychopath. Detective Chief Superintendent John Pole is the man hunting for him. You tell me that he's tall, but you won't tell me why you think he's a tall man. And you've brought some knives. It looks like he's a knife freak as well.
Yes, that's so. This is a replica of an English commando knife issued during the last war. It was found in Sylvester's cab underneath the front passenger seat. We know it's not Sylvester's knife. It doesn't appear to be the murder weapon.
But possibly dropped there or almost certainly put there by the murderer.
Yes. Here, this is a US M3 American Army trench knife issued to the American commandos. Found about 2¼ miles further along the A30, hidden behind a GPO junction box. We're satisfied this is the murder weapon in the case of Sangha. Sangha lost, or was carrying that evening, a ceremonial knife, because he's a Sikh, or a Karpan. His particular knife is missing. This is one similar to it, but the one that's missing has a blue band around it.
So anyone who found a Karpan like this, but with a blue instead of the orange band, you want to hear from them. These keys, where do they come from? They look like clock keys or watch keys.
Yeah, the pocket watch keys. They were found at the rear of Sylvester's car in the car park. I don't know if they have any connection with this case. I'm just curious to know how they got there.
Right. Now, you want, obviously, to find out who made the phone call to Hardeep Sangha. That was from the Lambton Road junction of the Great West Road, is
it? Yes.
Anybody who made a phone call on that night, which was, what, the 30th of March, wasn't it?
Yes.
And then there are the people that must have been in the vicinity at that time. This is where the car was abandoned on the South Perimeter Road of the airport.
Yes. Well, we're happy now. The car was there about 1:45. It seems about the same time. There was a man in his 50s in a red tracksuit jogging. About 1:45, there was a man with bushy hair and a bushy beard exercising his dog. Neither of those people we've been yet able to find. Later on, about the same time, a man was seen standing right next to the car. A man in his late 30s, early 40s, wearing a two-piece grey suit with grey or sandy-coloured hair. And he was seen actually by the car. That's about an hour after we know it was there.
This is Friday the 30th of March, or it may have been the early in the morning of Saturday, the 31st. Right, Mr. Pole, thank you very much indeed. Now, if you think you can help in any way, please don't let a murder like this happen again. Looking for a tall man, possibly a knife freak, all the other clues you've heard. The number, if you know anything, 01811 8055. That's here at Crimewatch. Or you can call Heathrow Police Station direct. That's 01897 7373 01897 7373.
3 weeks ago, near Bristol, a body was discovered. The victim was a woman, a mother of 2, and she'd been missing from home since early June. Shelley Morgan was an American by birth, but had married and lived here in Britain for 12 years. She and the children had only recently moved to Bedminster, a suburb of Bristol. Her husband planned to join them when he'd finished renovating their family home in Wales in order to sell it. Shelley was an artist, and things had been going very well for her. She'd had a commission from an art dealer to paint these views of Bristol, and she had one left to finish, a view of the Clifton Suspension Bridge. Our reconstruction begins at Shelley's home on the day that she went missing, the morning of Monday, the 11th of June.
That's it. Thank you. That's it, darling?
I'm ready.
Good. I'm nearly ready. I'm just going to do a bit of packing.
What are you taking that for, Mum?
My camera? Well, you know that bridge I showed you the other day, that pretty one near Clifton?
Oh, yeah, that big one.
Well, that's the last of my sketches.
Oh.
And if I take some photographs, then I can paint and draw at all the angles that I want.
Oh.
Okay? Come on.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. Come on, darling.
Hello, Charlotte. Hello. Home at the usual time?
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later.
Morning, Mrs. Morgan. Morning, Mrs. Newcomb.
A couple of hours after seeing her children off to school, sometime between 10 and 11 a.m., Shelley Morgan called into the sorting office in Kent Street to collect a registered letter.
I've got a banker's card.
The letter contained money from her husband, which he sent every week while he was away working on their house in Wales.
Here you go.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Where Shelley went next has not been fully established. However, a witness travelling on this bus thinks she saw someone closely resembling Shelley get on at about 10:10 that morning. She remembered the woman because of her long fair hair and her distinctive red glasses. If indeed it was Shelley Morgan, that bus would have taken her to the centre of Bristol and the bus station. Police would like to hear from anyone who may have spotted Shelley after 11 o'clock that morning. If she did plan to photograph the Clifton Suspension Bridge, she could have got a bus from here. When the children came home from school, their mother wasn't there. The house was locked and empty. Finally, a neighbour took them into her house to wait for her. As time went on, it became increasingly clear that something was very wrong. At 7:30 p.m. that Monday, the 11th of June, Shelley Morgan was officially registered as a missing person. Months went by, birthdays passed, and still no word from Shelley. Fears were becoming expectations. Then on Monday, the 24th of September, police headquarters in Bristol received this dramatic phone call.
I got some very important information about the missing woman from Windmill Hill. Unfortunately, this is going to turn out to be a murder inquiry. The body is in a Wall-Tree grave. I'm not certain whereabouts too. It's in Hannam River, between the bottom of Conham Hill and the old Seagull.
Police had to take this call seriously. Immediately, they launched an underwater search team to look for the body. After 19 days, their intensive search revealed nothing.
Tell me when you're ready to leave bottom, over.
The call about the stretch of river at Hannam had been a hoax. Then just 2 days later, police were speeding west of the suspension bridge where Shelley had intended to take photographs, and west of Bristol to Backwell, just 8 miles from where Shelley lived. Their destination was Long Lane in Backwell, Avon. The missing person inquiry had become a murder investigation. On Sunday, the 14th of October, 3 small children found a badly decomposed body. It was Shelley Morgan. Missing from the scene were her clothing, glasses and bag containing her camera, sketchbooks and the registered letter from her husband. The body was found not in a watery grave, but at Watercatch Farm. A full-scale police investigation to find her killer has now begun. Shelley Morgan's father speaks for the first time about his daughter's death.
Well, the biggest irony of this whole thing is that for 12 years, during which time Shelley was here, we never worried about her physical safety. We knew that she was here in a very highly civilized, decent country, surrounded by people of goodwill and honesty and generally well-ordered community. And we simply did not have to worry about our daughter. Of course, now this is all gone. She's, we can't bring her back, but we can, I think, consider those who are still here. We feel that this person is an extreme menace to just about anyone. And we hope that anyone who might someday or somehow know something about this person, that they will be able to come forward to the police and convey this information to them.
Well, Detective Superintendent, the anonymous caller who called you had a local accent. Do you think he would have had anything to do with Shelley's death, in fact?
Well, we won't know until we trace him. I wouldn't have thought so. But it is very strange that he phones us 3 months after her disappearance. Why? Why was he phoning us at that time? Is there some little piece of information that he's got that he wanted us to be interested in? We won't know until we find him.
If it is a hoax and he comes forward, will you prosecute him?
Of course not. We're dealing with a murder inquiry. All we want to do is arrive at the truth, and that's it. So if he is watching, please contact us and we'll resolve it and find out what it was all about.
Now, you're sure that she was killed on the actual day she disappeared, on June the 11th. What was the motive for her murder, do you believe?
Well, it has all the appearance of sex. She was naked apart from her shoes and a pair of tights, face down in a copse. Her clothing's gone somewhere. We're still carrying out certain tests, but there's little doubt that it must have been a sexual attack and then a murder.
So what exactly do you need the public's help with? The clothing's missing, as you say. Do you think somebody might have found that?
Anything and everything. Anything that anybody knows about her movements. Perhaps the man responsible is already in prison and has talked to somebody. Anybody who's got a lodger they're worried about. A woman who's had a bad experience in a car. Somebody trying to pick her up in a car. That's the one thing we are certain of. She must have been taken there in a car, and at that time she was either alive or she was dead.
That bag is very distinctive, isn't it? That might provide a clue.
It is. That bag was made from a blueprint that her mother supplied from materials that we found at her home, very similar to the one she had. As you've already said, her dress is missing, her red spectacles are missing, the registered envelope is missing. All those items are somewhere. Her clothing is somewhere.
And the most vital clue of all, of course, is the camera.
This is the most vital clue that we have got, as you said. This is an identical camera. It's an Olympus, as you see. It's an OM20 camera. And I do appeal to anybody watching tonight, please give us 2 minutes of your time, because there's only one camera in the world that's got the number 1032853 on it. It's stamped there on the metal at the bottom here. That camera was stolen from her. Please take time after the programme to look. If you've acquired a camera like that since the 11th of June, please check it. And any dealer that's watching, will you please take a note of that number and check your stock in the morning.
Detective Superintendent, thank you very much indeed. The number to ring is 01811 8055, or you can call the incident room in Bristol, which is Nailsea 854011, 0272 854011. And if you live in Bristol, you can ask the operator for free phone Nailsea Incident Room.